Our friend Jacob says, I am a writer. I'm trying to figure something out. Imagine a combat sport without weight classes, without banned moves or safety equipment. Won by knockout or submission. What would the athletes look like physically? Is there already a sport like this? Your channel is fantastic. Well, you just described the original UFC. Not the current UFC, but the original UFC. Like UFC 1 through, what was it, 16? I don't remember when they started adding the rules. Around the year 2000 is when the unified rules of mixed martial arts were penned by a boxing commission in New Jersey, the New Jersey State Athletic Control Board. But your question still deserves some merit. Now, you could look at the old UFC fights from the no rules, no time limits, no weight class, no glove era, but to call that itself the sport, I don't think would be quite accurate. Because back then, people didn't really understand what sport they were competing in. They understood it was a fight, and they were trying to be the best fighter, but they didn't have a very solid technical way of going about to do that. People were still trying to figure out some really rudimentary things about fighting. There were very, very few people that we could honestly call mixed martial artists back then. Generally, people grappled, or they boxed, or they did karate, they did a single style and all that. And a lot of people attribute Marco Ruas as being the first real mixed martial artist in UFC history. And I mean, that's fair to say, but I would say it was really John Lewis in my estimation. John Lewis is not super well known in the world today, although I think he was super instrumental in changing the direction that the UFC went. He was the first guy who was really, really good at mixing his martial arts, as far as I'm concerned. He was the first guy who wasn't just a highly technical black belt and a highly technical striker, but he was highly technical at mixing his martial arts. Man. But your question makes me think something I would love to find the answer to. If you had the original UFC rules, exactly what you're describing, no weight classes, no time limit, no rules, no gloves, etc., but you had athletes with 20 years of training specifically for that type of competition under their belts, with generations of knowledge and tapes to do film study on, of that specific sport. You know, kind of like we have with unified rules, mixed martial arts today, or boxing or any other combat sport that's been around for at least a couple of decades. It would be a very different thing. What types of fighters would dominate in a truly no-holds-barred sport where everybody knew how to fight, where everybody was at the same level? That is a really intriguing question. Now, as far as no weight classes, I made a video about this before, and I speculated that there would be a point of diminishing returns in the size department. I would say probably somewhere between 215 to 250 pounds, we would probably see the best fighters in the no weight limits type of fights. Even though you could have guys who are 300, 400, 600 pounds, for most people there would be a point of diminishing returns. But if you have a good light heavyweight or a good heavyweight fighter, and yeah, that guy can do a lot of damage against somebody who is bigger but not as athletic. But there are some freaks out there too, man. There are some freaks. But that's such an interesting question. Thanks for the question, Jacob. Next.